working at our booth, there are a lot of angry and frustrated people out there. You understand me? You agree? I mean, you meet them, right here in Tulsa. We were at the Puller Parade recently and had a table there, and a lady and her husband came up to the table, or came up by the table. She came over the table and took some material, and I got up, went over to shake his hand. And I won't quote him, but you'll get the idea. He said very angrily, "I don't want to shake your blankety blank hand. You'll be just like the rest of them. You'll make all these promises and you won't do a blank thing about it." You were there, Dave, you saw it. I took a step closer to him. I looked him right in the eyes. I said, "Sir, I'd like for you to look me in the eyes and tell me that I'm lying to you." He backed up a step, and I smiled. He, "Well, you do have a good smile." And I said, "No, I'm serious. At my age, if you think for 1 second that I'm out here doing what I'm doing to get a job I don't need, I want you to look me in the eyes, or if I'm doing it for the fun of it, I want you to look me in the eyes and tell me, when I say what I will do if I become governor of this state, that I'm lying." I said, "Sir, you need to do something about your anger." So they left. Now here's the interesting part of the story, and this is why I tell it. Because he came back in about 30 minutes. I went over to him. He said, "Okay, I'm ready to talk." He said, "I'm a Republican, but I'm frustrated." I said, "Sir, I'm frustrated too." A lot of people are frustrated.
That's right.
And that's why I'm out here doing what I'm doing, to try to get a job, to be able to do something, to do what needs to be done, to make changes we need to make in this state. And sir, I need your help. And he said, "You've got it. You've got it." I tell that story because that's what people are looking for. And I'm not here tonight to make a political speech, so I'll move on. But that's my 30 seconds.
There you go.
Ben is right. We filed the lawsuit because we felt that they had violated our Constitution. And I had a report the other day, so Mr. Richardson, it's true, is it not, that if you weren't running for governor, you wouldn't have filed that lawsuit? And I said, "You're right. I will admit that." And I'll tell you why. Because if I was still practicing law, that's what I'd be focusing on. But now that I'm running for governor, I'm focusing on what's going on in our state, and I'm learning things that I didn't even know. I'm seeing needs out there that I didn't know about. And so that's why I filed the lawsuit. I want to talk first about the one that the Supreme Court overturned. I was rather intrigued by the conversation that went on with the Supreme Court justices and our lawyers. I hired a lawyer from down in Norman, that Stan Ward, who, by the way, is the one that promoted and was largely responsible for getting State Question 640 voted on and approved. But they were talking about the issue of the motivation for why the legislators pass these bills. Now, is there anyone in the room that can't answer that question? I mean, seriously? I'm sitting there thinking, they can't be serious. You know? They just can't be serious and ask that question. And then the state gets up and argue that the purpose of the tobacco bill, cigarette bill, was to stop people from smoking. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, these are adults you're talking about. They have freedoms, they have rights. And you say they passed it to stop adults from doing what they choose to do that doesn't violate the law? I mean, folks, that's intriguing at the very least. So anyway, it's a pretty easy question to ask, but one of the things I have found over the years, and Kevin, I think you will agree with this, that If you want to complicate things, get lawyers and judges involved.
No.
Thank you, Kevin. You're speaking for both of us, right?
Stick up for lawyers.
Okay. If the bill had been upheld, it would cost the people of this state $225 million from the taxpayers. You know, I've been asked to take a few minutes, 30 minutes or so, and talk about what was argued for 3 hours. Motions were written on, arguments were made, and I'm going to do the best I can to try to simplify it. Some of these papers fall off, I'm just going to let them go. But I want you to get the gist of what went on, and in doing so, there's a 29-page order that was given. I want to read some of the things from the order. And the first one I want to read, it says, petitioners who are manufacturers, wholesalers, etc., alleging that it is a revenue bill enacted outside of the procedure mandated in Article 5, Section 33 of the Oklahoma Constitution. That's what we're dealing with here. Which says, that talks about revenue bills. State Question 640, which was passed by we, the superpower of Oklahoma, which are the people, says that the legislators cannot pass revenue bills in the last 5 days of a session. So what did they do? They called them fees. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's got to be a duck. They call them fees. And the history, I want to read here very quickly. Says, the governor urged the legislature to raise our cigarette tax so that the revenue raised can be spent on current health care needs. Again, who buys that? Who buys that that was the reason they passed that bill? Anyone? They tried to pass the bill with the full legislature there. All the legislators there. They couldn't get the necessary votes, which was 3/4 of the vote, of those voting. They couldn't get it. So what did they do? They wait till the last 5 days, and they play games. You know, as the band said, I want someone that does what they say, and say what they do, and do what they say. And when he felt like he knew someone, he was ready. It was raised in the House, and it failed. Nothing in the House in that meeting about the bill, to your great surprise, I'm sure, was said about trying to reduce smoking. Nothing. Isn't that interesting? Let me move a chair over here. Right.
There you go.
If you keep searching, there's always a way. Now I want to read to you another part of the order, which says, the House was confronted with a constitutional conundrum. Either pass Senate Bill 845, which was essential to balancing the budget, but would perhaps require violating Article 5, Section 33. Folks, they knew they were going to violate that article, didn't they?
Yep.
They absolutely knew. Or don't, and violate Article 10, Section 23 by failing to balance the budget. As one legislator put it, this was a decision between a bad and worse. You know, the question is, how did they get there? What caused our legislators to get to this point? That's the real question. You know, as I say, if you go to a doctor and he starts telling you how to fix your problem and he hadn't done any examination yet, you'll probably leave, right? You want him to examine your body. The question is, what would we find if we examined how they got there? That's the question. Since I'm here to talk about the bill, I won't give a political talk, and it's kind of difficult to restrain myself. But moving on. In 1992, State Question 640, as I said, most of you know about that, was passed by super legislators. And who was that?
Us.
That was us, the people. The people spoke and amended the Constitution. But some of our legislators didn't know that, apparently. If they did, they didn't listen.
That's right.
In arguments before the Supreme Court, they spent a good bit of time talking about two cases, Leverage versus Oklahoma Tax Commission, a 1956 case, and that was over a $25 filing fee, and it was up for the appellate court. My attorney, Stan Ward, had his argument already prepared to make to the Supreme Court, and he changed it completely after hearing what they were talking about. He went to a different subject because what they were talking about wasn't what he thought the whole deal was about. So he tried to adjust and did a fabulous job. And he pointed out specifically why the Leverage case was not applicable, that they were talking about apples and oranges, and did a great job explaining that. The state argued that the case held that the fee was a service and not a tax. Again, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's got to be a duck. I grew up on a farm too, so I know ducks.
Yeah.
We used to go duck hunting. Stan actually asked the Supreme Court justices, why are we talking about leverage, the leverage case, when it's really about State Question 640?
Yeah.
Why are we spending our time talking about the leverage case, which was passed by a Supreme Court that contained, listen to this, folks, it was passed by a Supreme Court that contained 3 justices that not too long after that were impeached for taking bribes to influence the court. And it's well thought that there were others, but they just didn't have the evidence they felt they needed to impeach them. Wow. I don't know about you, but that kind of gives me chills to think that that kind of thing has gone on in our state and goes on. Stan presented the history of the state question and actually said, you guys need a history lesson.
What's State Question 640?
Says that the legislators cannot, in the last 5 days of a session, pass a revenue bill. Yeah.
And they need 75%.
So that's why they call it a fee. I'm sorry?
And they need 75%.
Yeah, before that, they need 75% to pass it, and they couldn't get it. So they waited the last 5 days and called it a fee.
And they were Republicans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in name. 30 of Stan had 40 minutes to speak, and 30 minutes he spent on State Question 640, which was the whole issue.
Sure.
Talking about the importance of the super legislators, we the people, talking about we either vote the will of the people or you get 75% of the vote. One or the other. And it didn't happen. Let me read another part here. Page 18. You can see I'm moving along pretty good.
Sure.
29-page order. How many orders have you read, Kevin? There's 29 pages. Not many. It says, were we to hold otherwise, they're talking about the tobacco bill, the distinction between fees and taxes, and thus the protection against taxation provided by Article 5, Section 33, would be meaningless.
Yeah.
I mean, you all could have filled in the blank.
Sure.
It would be absolutely meaningless. How you doing? That gives us hope. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Good, good. Am I doing okay? You're my attorney.
Yeah. You're a little late. The jury's already gone out.
Well, my office blew down at Remington Tower. I've been a little rushed lately.
So that's what gives us hope for the other cases that we filed on. The real issue, notwithstanding State Question 640, if you want to go that route, does remove an exemption constituted raising revenue, and does it remove an exemption constitute, I can't read my own writing, raising revenue, and we say yes, it does. What they actually did is, you know, there's you get 4 3/4% exemption on car taxes, and they took away 3.5 of that, or 1 1/4 of that, and moved it down to 3.5. Well, that's paying taxes. I don't care how you color it. And in my view, they colored outside the lines. You know, David and I have spent some time talking about this, David Tackett, and we are of the opinion that there's an underlying concern by the Justice Department, or court, which shouldn't be their issue at all. And that's what kind of lawsuit they may be facing from the wind industry, because they took away some of their exemptions. Well, folks, you know, it does take some vision to lead.
Yep.
Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
You know, you have to see things that are coming down and going down in order to be a leader. You don't wake up one day and say, oh, wow, I didn't know that would not happen, and act like you're surprised. Typically, they are surprised. That's the really sad part of it. And I will kind of close what I have to say with this. And like I said, I'm not going to give a campaign speech, but I will take questions. I've written 4 books. The first one is Fear is Never Your Friend.
Amen.
And I've been told by more than one that I better hire some pretty good security. The other day, a fellow said to me how concerned he was about my security. And I said, you know, John, I appreciate your concern, and I would agree with you. But John, I know who my protector is.
Hallelujah.
Yep.
And I said, therefore, I have no fear. I have no concern for my safety. I believe no one can touch me unless he allows it. Period. End of story. About a week later, I got a Facebook post from a fellow whom I didn't know, and he said, Mr. Richardson, based on what you're saying, you're going to be spending more money on security than you will spend on your campaign. I Facebooked him back and said, sir, I do appreciate your concern, but I think I can ease it somewhat, bring you to some point of peace by telling you, I have the best security that money can buy. and it doesn't cost me a penny. Go read Psalm 121 and you know what I'm talking about. And back to the first conversation, I left that part out. When I said I know who my protector is, something happened very unusual. I have a Bible app on my phone. I'd had that Bible app for 8 years, but this had never before happened, nor has it happened since. A number 1 popped up on it, and I hit the Bible app. Psalms 121. Verse 7. I will protect thee from all evil.
Yes, Jesus.
Amen. So I told the gentleman that sent me the Facebook text, I said, sir, go read Psalms 121, and you know what I'm talking about. The second book I wrote is Thank God They Ate the Apple. If you read it, you'd understand why I say that. The third book is called Black Robe Fever. And the fourth book is I Want You to See Me. Whatever I bring into your life, or whatever I allow to come into your life, I want you to see me using it, Romans 8:28, for your good. For your good. The Black Robe Fever book is the one I want to talk about for just a minute. Because I want to talk about what happened here and make a suggestion to you as the super power of this state. And it's this. I see too much in politics what Kevin and I see too much of in the legal field. And that is, people often, or sometimes, maybe often, hire a lawyer that is sold out to their own benefit more than they are to their client's benefit. Have you ever seen that? Heard about it?
Yeah.
If they're put at risk, they won't stand and fight for the client. They'll let the client go down. I see that in our legal profession on occasion. Kevin, I know you do as well. That's why so many people are looking for you to hire you, because they know you'll fight for them and stand up for them. And I wrote the book, and what I'm saying is I see the same thing in the political arena.
Boy, howdy. Absolutely.
I'm not looking for a career in politics, believe me. Like I said, that man, at my age, if you think I'm out here for the heck of it, the fun of it, and don't mean what I'm saying, please look me in the eyes and tell me I'm lying. I want to get to the bottom of it. Get to the core of it. That's my nature. That's who I am.
That's right.
I want to deal with the real issue. But in my book, I'd like for all of you, if you like to read, get a copy of it, and you will read it and then tell me if you believe that I'm the type of person that will not take a bullet for a client if there's something I can do. Not take a bullet just because it's going to cost me something. I was held in contempt of court in a trial in Austin in federal court 8 times by a federal judge because I wouldn't succumb to his command that I do something that he did not have the authority to tell me to do. And he made it very clear I was going to jail for 6 months when the trial was over, and I made it very clear I was willing to do that in order to give my client the constitutional rights that he was entitled to. And he upped the ante on Friday, a 6-week trial of the first week, by telling me that I was going to spend the weekends in his hotel if I knew what he meant. And I never argued with him. Never took, I just, yes sir, I understand, yes sir. And then I go do what I had to do. And he upped the ante on Friday by telling me I was going to spend the weekends in his hotel. And I said, Judge, I think you know by now that I'm willing to accept whatever the penalty is to represent my client. And folks, the clients are the people of Oklahoma,
Right.
not these guys that are trying to protect themselves for the way they vote. And I said, Judge, you know, it's Friday afternoon, I really didn't want to go to his hotel. I said, if you put me in your hotel, this case will be reversed if my client gets, and my client was looking for, at 84 years, and he was a district attorney, also a Baptist minister. I don't have time to tell you a story, but he was going to indict 8 law enforcement people, and they found out about it. So they turned the tables on him and got him indicted. Looking at 84 years. The only thing I ever said to the judge during all this time, he's so angry at me, Judge, would you mind looking at the prosecutor every once in a while so that jury won't think I'm the only one you're upset with? But anyway, I said, Judge, so you know it'll be reversed if he gets convicted. So, Judge, I'd like to make this recommendation. Why don't you call a mistrial and go ahead and put me in jail for 6 months? And folks, I was certain I was going to jail, then or later, because he'd made a commitment to me. Or leave me alone. You're not doing any good, and you're wasting a lot of time. He sat there and he said, I will see you gentlemen. He even put me in the category of gentlemen. I'm kind of flattered about that. I'll see you gentlemen Monday morning at 8 o'clock. And he never said another word to me during the entire trial about what I was doing or how I was defending the case. The case is over. He goes through the back door of his chambers, to his chambers. Didn't say a word to me. I go through security to get to his chambers. And I walk in, and he acts like he doesn't know why I'm there. And I said, Judge, I'm here to take care of unfinished business. And he acted like he didn't know what that was. I said, Judge, I'm here to go to jail. And I was. And he said this, Mr. Richardson, I had a job to do, and you had a job to do. I just hope I did mine half as well as you did yours. You going home to Tulsa. Well, folks, when our leaders do the right things, they will get the right results. When they're willing to do the right things, regardless of the cost. So, with that story, you got a question?
I do.
Okay.
Are you seeing the kind of anger that I'm hearing and getting from all corners of this state?
Everywhere we go. Monica, is that correct?
That's right.
Billy?
Yes.
Dave? We said everywhere we go, people are angry. And he said, I'm a Republican, but I'm frustrated. Yeah. I mean, everywhere. And I appreciate some of the comments Kevin had to say about that. Because Kevin's not on the political trail, are you, Kevin? You're not out here politicking for anything, are you?
Just as quiet.
You know? So, you know, I tell people my dad only went through the 3rd grade. He was a cotton farmer and also a lazy preacher. People loved him. He had a great personality. He loved people. But he was an honest man, and he also sold used cars. He was an honest man. Any questions about these 3 bills? I tried to run over as quickly as I can because I know you're really more interested in the bottom line, I think, is what happened, why did it happen, and what we can do about it. So I want to cover real quickly what I say with regards to the, quote, special session. Now, I did read an article today where our speaker said the legislature has a lot of options for addressing the $215 million budget hole. There shouldn't be a special session called until there is an identified plan, McCall said. I think we can easily say what they're waiting on is to see what happens on the Carr case.
That's right.
We think they'll overrule it. We do believe they will. I mean, it's a tax.
Sure it is.
Right, David?
Yes, sir.
That's my consultant.
So it's a long
He better
revenue.
agree.
It is revenue for revenue's sake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We question whether or not, we kind of think they will not overrule the uncoupling of the state tax from the federal tax.
Yeah.
We think there's some chance on the hybrid and the electric vehicle fee, taxes, they call it fees. But who knows?
It's revenue.
I mean, Kevin, can you ever second guess the Supreme Court? I mean,
I don't even pay attention to Oklahoma.
yeah.
Gary,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
You've read a lot of opinions before. I've heard people say that this was a very well-written opinion by the youngest member. Would you characterize that?
I think it's a great written opinion, yeah.
Okay.
No, I totally agree.
And it was unanimous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. Well, one guy did decline to be a part of it because of some conflict he felt like he had. I don't remember which one it was. You know, one of the options they have is to cut spending, foolish spending.
Swag.
Swag?
Yeah.
How many of you don't know what swag is? Swag. It's not a country western dance.
Although it could be.
It could be. We spend $13 million a year, folks, even though times are bad. We're still doing it to put names on coffee cups and pens. $13 million a year. We give, let me finish this real quick today. We give the turnpike $47 million a year. It's 46.4 this past year. And we could go on and on if you really want to. No, I can't campaign, so I won't go there. Go ahead.
Obviously, I work for you and everything, but I'm going to say something.
Why aren't you out knocking doors tonight, Dave?
Not a Doug. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all really realize what Gary's done, but he's already doing stuff for citizens of the state of Oklahoma that he's not even hired yet. So, just think about that. He's not the governor yet, but he's out doing the governor's work by filing lawsuits against our crooked legislators up there that trying to tax us because they want more money up there to blow. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dave.
That's right.
And I will say, because it's fact, I'm paying it out of my own pocket. It's not legitimate to pay it out of the campaign. Yes, sir.
David, to clarify, not all of us are crooked. Some of us.
Thank you.
Hey, I say that all the time. We do have some good legislators. They just need a leader.
Yeah,
Few exceptions. Yeah.
I've had some of them come to see me, and they want to talk to me about my platform, etc. If you want to go to our website, which I won't mention, you're reading on one of those cards, you can see our plan. Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to say I've read your book, Black Robe Fever, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
It's a very enlightening book about what one man can do when he runs into severe corruption in the courts. And it was a real eye-opener to me when I read it. My question is, if the Supreme Court rules against some of these other tax measures, it's going to be pretty certain, I would think, that we would have a special session, and there's going to be a huge hole in our budget. It looks like it'll be certain that taxes will be raised. My question is, do you share that opinion? And
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
I think there are other ways. For example,
Well, do you think they'll do it, however?
that I can't answer.
I'm talking about the legislature, not the
Right. No, I understand. Who knows if they do it. But I'm going to say it anyway. Go to our website and you'll see some of our recommendations to fix this thing. And also there's $83 million carryover from last year that they have that they were not anticipating. Again, swag bill, cut spending. I spent about an hour and a half, David and I did, over Capitol recently with Jason Murphy,
Good
a
man.
legislator from Guthrie.
Good man.
I wanted to hear from him his story, because I've read a couple of his articles. And he said, Gary, I can tell you, I never hear talk about cutting spending. Wow. Wow. I never hear talk. You know, we have a kitchen table plan. And, you know, when we as families, money falls short, what do? We cut spending. Yeah. We sit around the table and say, well, we can't go to the movie every week. We can't go out and eat steak every week until things get better. We don't go rob from Peter to pay Paul.
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay. Cut spending. He said this, and that's a quote. Our legislators, too many of them, do not have the will to make the tough decisions.
There you go.
There you go. Do something about tax credit reform. Do something about pre-K that costs our state over $200 million a year. Pre-K, going into business against daycare centers. My sister in San Antonio had 5 daycare centers at one time. She sold them. She's retired. She's smarter than me. And $200 million a year, and they said, well, they'll learn to read quicker. They've already proven by the 3rd grade they're not reading any better than those who were in daycare or pre-K.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
After 3 years. 30 seconds. The legislature, the Constitution, gives the legislators the power to remove exemptions. Folks, we've got the laws we need to do the things we need to do. It's the vision and the will to do it. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Gary. And I do think I speak for pretty much everybody in this room. Protecting the Constitution is probably more important than any temporal matter. Constitution affects things long term.